Welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I'm your host, Wize, and my next guest is an award-winning podcast strategist, producer, and CEO of Isa Media. Welcome to the show. Sorry about that. I had to take off. To the show, Isabella Sanchez Castañeda.
Thank you so much for having me.
My phone started going off. I'm sorry. But how are you doing?
I'm doing well today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to speak to you because being that I'm a podcaster, I want to pick your brain and ask you about what's going on, especially with podcasting in 2025. Mm-hmm. So let's just jump right into it.
Absolutely. What would you like to know?
All right. What inspired you to transition from journalism to podcasting, and how has that shaped your approach to storytelling?
Absolutely. So I know that there are so many people with really great stories, and the beauty of podcasting is that you can really access it for free even, right? There's so many really great tools that you can use, that you can build your show with, and that allows so many more people to share what they're really about. Now, the challenge with that is that so many people don't know how to tell their story in a way that is clear and that gets people to take action. And the benefit I had with being in journalism for so long was that I could tell a story in that way. And so I love marrying the two things so that people can really put themselves out there and be really proud of the work that they're sharing. And so I was able to transition over. I had the storytelling skill, and I didn't think I had the podcasting skill until someone asked me, hey, can you do my show? And I looked and I was like, actually, I can. I had studied the editing. I had studied how to put it together, how to interview. And so it very naturally flowed. I just had to kind of look and give myself the credit.
Awesome. What can you share about the story behind the founding of Isa Media Inc.?
Yeah. So I'll say it's Isa Media.
I'm sorry,
that's okay. So it was actually because I graduated during the pandemic and was in a role that I thought I had wanted for years, like literally thought I wanted it since I was in elementary school. And once I was actually in it, I realized that I didn't necessarily want it. And because of the pandemic, it wasn't something that I could just jump and try a new role right away. I was very fortunate that both my parents are business owners kind of out of necessity, and they really encouraged me. They were like, why don't you just go out on your own? And I thought that was, it was too early to do that because I was so green. But really, again, it's about looking and seeing where you already have the skills and where you already have what other people want. And so for me, it was the storytelling and being able to lean into that.
Okay. What's one piece of advice you wish you had when you first started podcasting?
To plan and pre-produce more than I did. So when I first started, I did 30 days of podcast episodes, daily podcast episodes solo. Mm-hmm. And I was just talking about whatever came to mind, whatever I wanted to talk about that day. And then after a while, I realized, like, why isn't this working? Why isn't the show growing? Why aren't people interested in my services? Because I started the podcast for promoting my business. And I realized, I was like, oh, I'm not practicing what I preach, which is to really plan and look at what is the story that you want to tell and what are people going to walk away with. I was just winging it. And I wish that someone had pulled me aside and been like, hey, you need to plan. And I also realized that if they had, I probably wouldn't have listened in the beginning anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't come from a media background. And so when I started my podcast was at the beginning of the pandemic. I was furloughed from my job. Right now I'm a pit boss in a casino. So I was home, didn't have much to do, had already purchased the equipment for podcasting. I bought me a Behringer Studio $160 on Amazon, and I was messing around with it, just playing around with it, and I just kept making up excuses to why I couldn't do the podcast. It was,
Mm.
listen to me, why, just making up excuses, and then I finally recorded 5 to 7 minutes with my nephew. Didn't have all the hookups correctly, but it was just the beginning, and
Yeah.
I released it. And so he was battling me on not releasing it because he was like, "We gotta wait till we get better." I was like, "No, I want to show people the growth. I want to show them where we started at and
Yeah.
where we're at now." I said it's okay. It's just the point is that I started. That was my key goal, is to get it out there and launch it. And so with each episode, I just improved. With
Hmm.
each episode, it was like, okay, I'm learning new things. I've learned how to edit episodes. I've learned how to edit video. I've learned about quality of mics, what mics use, what not, and I started investing in myself. Started taking courses just because I fell in love with podcasting. I didn't know I had a voice. This isn't something I knew. This is not something I was like planning. But like you, it was eventually I learned that, yeah, you need to start planning. You need to start studying, getting questions correct, whatever you're gonna do, you really have to
Yeah.
start planning your podcast out, and which I'm still doing and growing, because it's always an evolution. Every year I'm improving, and every year I'm adding new details to it. So to say that I started out the right path, no, but it was me just taking that leap and actually just releasing my first episode.
Yeah. What does your planning process look like now?
Whew. Uh, the scheduling is easy because I use Podmatch. So to find guests, that was one of my biggest issues, was finding guests, especially
Hmm.
in this field and everything, and the conversations that I wanted to have. So using Podmatch to find my guests, getting me a calendar, because before I was,
Mm.
okay, yeah, let's record, and I had to learn how to use the calendar, start scheduling it, and making sure this is the time, and making sure that I scheduled it at the same time every time. I didn't want to I wanted to dedicate it. This is the time I have to record. So I
Hmm.
had to learn at certain time. If this is the time you record, this is the time you record. So calendar. Within the last 2 years, I started doing more automation as far as sending out my emails and all this stuff that I did, collecting um, emails, all these other stuff that I didn't know. This past year, I started focusing more on affiliate marketing, using
Mm.
affiliate codes and stuff like that to help offset some of the costs that I have. I use my StreamYard, pays for itself with the affiliate link that I use to StreamYard.
Yeah.
Um, Podmatch pays for itself because they pay me a percentage when I interview certain people, and
Hmm.
so I don't charge to interview people, but they're giving back to the podcaster, which I love. So big shout out to Alex Sanfilippo and his team over there at
Yes.
Podmatch. They're doing some wonderful things, and just so many different other things that I'm still learning from. That I'm still learning and trying to adapt. And this year I need to learn how to relinquish some duties.
To outsource.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I want to definitely also shout out Podmatch. Podmatch has been incredible on the guesting side as well. And so, for anyone listening, if you want to guest on more podcasts or you want to start your own and
Yeah,
interview people, Podmatch is the place to go. And yeah, Alex and Alicia are just great founders. So
yeah. I'm looking
we
forward
will
to hanging out with
always.
them. I'll be at Podfest, so I'm looking forward to hanging out with them. Every time I've gone, I've been able to hang out with them and spend some time with them. So
That's
been able
amazing.
to really build a relationship with them, and so many other wonderful people that I meet that I've met down at Podfest, and just that's one thing I've been able to build some great relationships.
Yeah.
Is connecting with fellow podcasters and other people, that like-minded people, and it's this community is amazing. It's like
Mm,
one of the best communities I've ever been a part, because so many people are looking to help you. If they
hmm.
see that you're investing in yourself and you want the help, it's amazing how people be like, "Oh, how can I help you? What can I do to make you successful and help build you up?"
Absolutely. And so tell me about the outsourcing. Like you're saying that that's a struggle. What's going on?
Mm, just things I know I should give up. Like I should be able to have a VA come and set up the studio for me and set up my questions and everything. But for some reason, just haven't done it. But I have a
Mm,
meeting tomorrow. I actually have a meeting with someone tomorrow about hiring them and bringing them on as a VA and getting some help to alleviate some stuff that I don't have to focus on and
yeah.
focus on the stuff that I really truly want to focus on.
Like what? What do you want to focus on?
Is whose show is this? Is it my show?
I just
I'm
like
just
asking
kidding. It's a
questions.
joke. It's a joke. Oh, there's so many different things I want to do. This past week, I was someone who I had guests on their I was a guest on their podcast, and they sent me they sent the email, just an email, and they were they did a 5-day course on um on faith and instilling faith in what you're doing and all that. And for some reason, I signed up. And the thing was, she coaches women,
Hmm.
but I signed up and took the course, and it was an amazing 5 days. Like it was so many things happened in those 5 days. Like I wrote a letter to the universe about wanting to improve, wanting to really focus on building my coachings and all that. And I get a coaching opportunity just pops up the very next day,
Wow.
and it was crazy the way it happened. And then I put out something else very next day. It happens, it transpires, and it's like, what's going on here? Like, what is this this feeling and everything? And it was just an amazing course, and to be able to now just go at it. My goal for 2025 is to go with
Mm,
more intention of just expressing what I want from my podcast and expressing what I want from my audience and giving them stuff like that. So it was great.
I love that.
But now let's get back to asking you some questions.
Sounds good. I'll probably turn it back around, but that's okay.
That's fine. How do you help personal brands stand out in a crowded podcast? Well, I don't really I need to rephrase that. How do you step, because I don't feel it's crowded. How do you feel how do you help personal brands stand out in podcasting? How what is it that you do that
Yeah.
makes your podcast different?
Yeah. So right now, a lot of people talk about like oversaturation with podcasting. I don't believe in that, mainly
Mhm.
because most people um can't stick to it. Like
Yeah,
don't go past 10 episodes.
yeah.
And so we've talked about that for a long time. What I'm looking toward in 2025 now is very to stand out, it's going past the generic content. So, a lot of folks now have this access to this incredible thing, AI. And so they're going to AI and they're asking AI, "Hey, I'm a health coach. What are 3 things I should tell my audience this week?" And so AI is giving them 3 very generic points that basically anyone could have shared. And so then every health coach is sharing the same 3 points on their podcast episodes if they've stuck past 10 episodes, right?
Mhm.
So my goal then is to focus on what is uniquely yours to share. So maybe you do start with AI telling you those 3 points, but how can you describe those 3 points in a way that no one else can describe? And really going deeper rather than wider. And so going more into like, hey, I know this because of this experience that I had, or I know this because of this person that I worked with. And so to give you an example, something that I've been working on just in the past few weeks is what makes me as a podcast strategist or as a communication strategist different. And I'm like, well, I was a tour guide for a really long time. And then I have a background in journalism. And now I'm also on the side a yoga teacher. And so, how do those three things combine together to give me a skill set that other podcast strategists don't have? And so, if I explain 3 points that everyone else has explained before, but I explain it from that point of view, then it stands out because it's not just the right now everyone's talking about goals, right? So everyone's talking about The Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's a
Yeah.
great book, but everyone
Right.
references
Totally.
it.
Yeah.
And so if you're the person talking about goal setting and you don't reference them, you instead have something different, you stand out. And so it's really about asking what can you uniquely say and just look at what got you here. What are the things that you did that built the skill set that you currently have?
Yeah. Yeah. For me personally, it's been just investing in myself, learning, getting coaching, speaking to, not afraid to ask questions, learning from different people, networking.
Mhm.
Networking was very important. It's been something that's helped me learn so much because people see that I'm wanting to learn and they offer me opportunities. I've been
Mhm.
offered a couple of opportunities to be a part of beta testers, and it's helped me because it's helped me improve on certain things that I didn't know about. So it was
Mhm.
like it's opened up so many opportunities for me, and
Absolutely.
I just love the relationships I'm getting to build from it as well.
And do you do solo episodes on your show?
Uh, that's at first I started off as solo episodes, and it was at the time it was the pandemic and George Floyd situation, the election, and I was not enjoying it. I was enjoying the podcasting. I was
Mhm.
loving the. I was like that. I was stepping out of my comfort zone and doing something that I normally didn't do, and just so when I started interviewing people, I truly fell in love with it. That's when I was like, oh, I love this. Being able to ask questions and learn and have people just share their knowledge and share their stories. Because I started speaking with people from all over the world, and yes, we're all uniquely different, but a lot of us have the same wants. We want to be successful. We want our family to be well off. We want to be able to help and serve others. And it's just amazing that there are so many people out there like that. But now with the way it is, you can really actually communicate with people from all around the world
Yeah.
and see it from their eyes and learn and be able to speak to them and hear their story. It's to me, it's like wow, like
Yeah.
had I not stepped into this world, I would have never learned so much. I've learned probably so much in the last 4 years than I have to the 10 years prior to that.
And I hear this a lot with people who love doing interviews is that then they don't go back to solo episodes.
Which
And
no, which sometimes I do when I like say a guest doesn't show up or cancels on me. I'll go in and I'll do a solo episode. I'll
yeah.
look at it if I have something on my mind and I want to discuss it, or there's some topic that there's always something that happened, and I'm like, all right, this is what I want to discuss because
Yeah.
it's on my mind, or something like, a topic comes up across on social media, and I'm like, that's an interesting topic. I don't have anything to talk about. I guess I can talk about that. So
Mm,
there's been times where I've had to do a solo episode, which I don't mind. I started off that way. It's great,
yeah.
but yes, I enjoy more of the conversation pieces.
I would encourage you to, because you said your word of the year is intention.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to, with intention, do solo episodes where you talk about the things that you've learned over the past 4 years with the podcast. And so you say, you know, these are three things I've learned about relationships from the guests I've had on my podcast. These are three things I've learned about business from the guests I've had on my podcast. And what that does is it lets you still be in a position of people getting to know you and what matters to you, but it also re-promotes those episodes. So you're able to go back and say, "Oh, this episode with, Susie, she taught me these things about business. If you want to learn everything that Susie shared, go listen to episode, 157. And then you're able to do it with intention, but also just create this ecosystem where people want to go deeper with you. Because the challenge with a lot of interview based shows is that you've built an amazing community and people want to get to know you, but you're always turning it to the other person. So then they never get to know you. And that them getting to know you more will open up even further opportunities for you to bring people up the way that other people have brought you up.
Oh man, I I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that. I
you
didn't
should.
even. I've never thought about that. It's definitely. Oh man, I should have been taking notes, but I got the recording, so I'm good.
Yes, good. I'm just gonna plug in my computer. But um what that allows you to do is it flexes a muscle of not just absorbing all of the information, but doing something with the information.
Giving out
Because so many of us love to learn and love to take in information and love to get more and get more and get more. But then it is through sharing that we actually learn it deeper. And by curating it and really saying, like, this is actually what it is, you will learn it more. And you get to share the wealth with people who maybe don't want to sit through a full interview. They just want to get the
the
golden
nuggets.
pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh. So people pay. Coming soon. Some more solo episodes. Definitely. Thank you. Yeah.
And
Um.
and things that they're going to get so much out of, like, those are episodes that are so shareable
Yeah.
because they're really easy to digest.
Hmm. Absolutely. So we have a couple people left comments. Mickey Delaney says hi, Wise. Hi, Isabella. How we doing? I'm doing fine, Mickey. Thank you for stopping by. Um, someone asked, "Are you related to Stefan Sanchez?"
Not that I know of.
And I guess guys, read some comments. There you go, Abdul. We read some comments. All right. So what are some of the most common mistakes you see podcasters make, and how can they fix them?
Well, one is one that we were just talking about, which is not doing solo episodes.
Hmm.
So it's just giving away the community entirely without taking, again, that credit for, hey, you built this community and you have something to share with them as well. I would say that's number one for guest-based shows. The other aspect of it is not having calls to action at the end of the episode. And so, even if it's with a guest or solo, not directing people where they should go and seeing it as an invitation. So, a lot of times people are afraid to use a call to action because they see it as a pitch, but it's really an invitation, just letting people know, hey, if you enjoyed this, why don't we continue to be in each
So
other's ecosystem?
as far as so later on in the show, you're gonna get your little segment where it's just you on the screen and you get to plug away and pitch yourself and all that. And that's something I've always felt like, all right, yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a great conversation, but I also need them to get directed to where you're at.
It's so important because, again, it's like, why are we consuming all of this information?
Mhm.
We ideally want to do something with it. And a lot of times hosts, again, think that they are protecting their audience in some way by not doing the call to action, but really their audience is going to, if they're really lit up by the topic that you share,
Yeah.
they will go somewhere else and still get whatever it is that they need. What else would I say is a huge mistake? I actually have a free guide where I have 5 mistakes listed on there. And I'm trying to remember the other 3. Um, I know not doing solo is a huge one, the not calls to action. And then also just not planning it. Again, going back to not having the right intention with it, where people are winging it. And so then their audience isn't getting the message that they want them to get. And then they're confused why they're not getting the results that they want to get from the show. Those would be my big three.
Okay. What's your favorite part of the podcast creation process, and why?
I love the scripting process,
Okay.
the planning process. So if it's for solo episodes, it's full scripts. I do believe in word for word. And then you can kind of iterate on it once you're recording, but just in the preparation, the deep work of it, or the guest question preparation. Um, I don't know if you watch the Hot Ones, but they always tell the host, like, oh my goodness, I've never been asked that before. Or like, how did you know that? That
Yeah.
is such a great response and so satisfying when you're the interviewer, to get someone saying that. And so I love just the pre-production, the planning aspect of it all.
Yeah. Oh, it drives me crazy, right? When a guest sends me questions they want me to ask, and
Mm,
I'm like, no, because I want because when I want to ask questions I want to ask because I want it to. I don't want it to come. I don't want the guests to sound like they're reading a script or anything. I want them to just be able to come out and be themselves and just
yeah.
whatever comes out your mind and your mouth at that moment. That's great. Like that's what I want. So for
Yeah.
me, I like,
And
yeah,
you know your audience best. You
yeah,
know what people are hoping to hear on your show. And so I think that that is a level of trust that your audience has placed in you.
yeah, definitely. Okay. Can you share a success story of a client who transformed their brand through podcasting? Because it's important. Like podcasting is it's very important when now with all these with the brands and trying to build your business.
Absolutely. So I think of my favorite one to tell is Danielle. So she waited 4 years to start her podcast. She was, yeah, she was in business like since the moment she started her business. She was like, I really want to start a podcast. But she kept telling herself that she couldn't do it. So similar to what you were saying before, like it's the starting that's important.
Mhm.
She was telling herself all the reasons why she couldn't start.
So yeah,
And that was keeping her small, not just with the podcast, but with other areas of her business, because it all goes back to like, are you giving yourself enough credit? And I didn't expect that to be the theme of today's episode, but apparently it is. And she was able to see how much she actually knows by putting it into a podcast. And so she's done solo episodes. She recently hit, I believe, episode 40 or 41. And that was after waiting so long to do it. And when she did it, she was like, oh, wow, I love this. And she plans her episodes weekly and is able to really build. And so now people see her as more of an authority. People see her as more of an expert in marketing. So her specialty is marketing. And she actually worked at a concrete company for over 10 years. And so she comes with this deep knowledge that a lot of other marketers don't have. And she was able to kind of flex it and really show it to people on her show. And that's called Marketing That Works with Danielle Harris.
okay. Oh, there we go. Shout out to Danielle Harris.
Yeah.
Um, it's for me. It's been an amazing just the growth and just the way it's been moving. Like I started simply audio. I was simply audio at first. Didn't do video. It was funny because I was using StreamYard to record the audio onto my Rodecaster. And so like when I got up to like episode 130 something and I had a husband and wife marketing strategist come on the show, the husband was like, do you do video? And I'm like,
Mm,
no, I'm not ready. I'm just I made up every excuse in the book. He goes and asked me the question again. And I'm still making up excuses. Then the third time he asked me, I just go to this button and go record. Yes, I do video now.
mm,
And I knew what he was getting at. but again, it was those insecurities that you have, and you're like, oh, I need to wait till I get the mic ready, the picture, the camera. I need my background to be set up correctly. All these excuses. But he was like, dude, you already. I knew what he was getting at because it was like, I'm already using the platform to
Mhm.
record. Why not just release the video? And
Mhm.
so I started doing videos, and from video, I went to doing live shows now 3 times a week because first of all, I was tired of editing and I just didn't want to edit anymore. And plus I had more fun doing the lives because now when people interact and leave comments, they become a part of the show. So
Mm.
now it's their show as well now. So for me, it was just that aspect of first, like I said, I didn't want to edit anymore, and then just having an audience and having them interact and send and leave comments. Sometimes there's like the comments lines is just filling up, and it's great. It's great to have those, and so I love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it's been fun with the growth, and I'm still changing and evolving and working on things and making sure that I improve in certain areas. So
Yeah. What would you say is the excuse you're currently using against yourself?
as far as podcasting goes,
Sure.
oh man, what excuses am I using? Um, I don't. You made a good point with the solo episode, with this doing the solo episodes. To me, that was something like I've been wanting to like. I started doing something called Wise in the AM, where it was strictly solo, and I was doing pretty good with it and everything. And then my mom got sick and passed away, and I kind of stopped doing them. This year, like I said, I'm planning on doing more things with intention, so I'm going to go back and start doing that show and
Mm.
and putting it out there. And it was it was like that was one of the biggest things for me was afraid of like how you said not letting people get to know me. Like yes, I'm interviewing people and promoting them and then giving them their shine. But I don't know why I was afraid to let people in my world. Even though I do share some of my stories once in a while, but speaking to you now today and hearing what you had to say, it made a lot of sense. I do have to sit down and do some more solo episodes. It's very important because it is important that people get to see a different side of me besides the interviewer part.
Mhm. Yeah. And because you've lived through things that can also help people.
Yeah, definitely,
Mm.
definitely. So, what role does storytelling play in creating a content, creating a podcast that resonates with listeners?
Mm. So stories make the unfamiliar familiar.
Mhm.
So there are things that people universally understand, and then there's a whole bunch of things that we don't understand. And so the more that you can use a story to explain to someone what you mean, the more quickly and more easily people will understand what you're saying. So it's why we use so many stories with little kids. And so with little kids, we don't tell them like, "Hey, don't give up, keep pushing." That doesn't stick. They don't know what that means yet. So then we tell them the story of the little engine that could.
Mhm.
And it's like, I think I can, and just like continuing to go. Or if you were to tell a little kid for the first time, like, hey, don't be in a rush, like being in a rush um, is going to hurt you in the end. Or, hey, take your time with things. They'd be like, I don't know what that means. So we tell them the story of the tortoise and the hare. And we tell them that, slow and steady wins the race. And over time, those stories become our belief systems because they took something that was unfamiliar and made them familiar. And getting practice in that, like looking around you and saying, how can I compare this thing over here to this thing over here and make them match so that people understand the core of what I want them to believe.
Yeah. It's amazing how when I started doing it is like and then started interviewing people and speaking to people. Everyone has a story.
Mm,
Everyone has, and some tell it much more better than others. And but it's just the fact that I'm able to give these people the opportunity to share their stories, and hopefully someone listening or watching can resonate. It can resonate with them, and then they'd be like, because one of the best comments I've received was me and a mess. I received an email from a friend. Um, Me and another friend of mine, we did a show, and we was talking about mindset and development and everything we were doing. And she sent me a message after she had heard the episode and was like, listening to two guys that I grew up with talk about mindset and growth and starting their own business and all this other stuff. I was on the fence about starting a business, and listening to you guys and saying, hey, I grew up with these guys. I know them.
mm,
They're doing this, and this. Why can't I do this, and this? And so when she sent that message, I was like, this is why I want to do the podcast. This is why I continue to do the podcast, is to receive messages like that.
yeah.
Because everybody's in love with numbers. Me, if I can impact a handful of people, I'm doing what I'm supposed to.
Mm,
I'm it makes me feel good to receive those messages, because that's not the only time that's happened. I've had it a couple of other times where numerous times where people send you a message, and when I read the message and listen to their story, it's like, wow, I've really got something here going. We still got something going on here that people are like, thank you, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, all right, let's keep going. And again, like I said, I'm evolving and changing, and I'm sure there'll be things that I'll start doing differently, like especially now with the solo episodes. It's 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 great to continue to do something and evolve and make it better than just staying stuck on one thing and not changing it and pivoting and going in different directions when the time calls for it.
hmm And most importantly, you're bringing people along with you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's something that's very key.
absolutely.
How do you handle challenges like podcaster burnout or creative blocks?
Mm. With creative blocks, it's having systems to create episodes, like having systems to create ideas. So, not relying on inspiration because inspiration can dry out very quickly. And being able to have frameworks, processes, questions that can get your mind focused enough to come up with a topic. And then I think with podcaster burnout, um, it really depends on why. So um, if it is because you aren't delegating enough, it's deciding like where can you delegate, where is it worth it, and going that direction. However, I don't think that that's usually what causes burnout. I think what usually causes burnout is when, in terms of podcasting specifically, it's when the host no longer finds the podcast meaningful. So they are not getting the messages like the ones that you described, or they are not getting the listener numbers. So I just had this conversation with a client where she said, no one is listening to my podcast. And I said, what is no one? Because if I go into your dashboard, there's someone listening.
Yeah,
She's like, "So, what is no one to you?" And she was like, "Oh, are you gonna tell me the cliche, like, if you had 10 people in a room, you would be so excited." I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna say that. If you're saying no one, that means that there's a number in your head
that you
that
have.
you want." So I was like, what is that number? And so everybody has a different number. Some
Mhm.
people would be jumping for joy to have 5 people. Some people would be jumping for joy to have 50. Some people are not going to be satisfied until they have 1,000. So I told her, I was like, tell me the number. She told me the number, and I was like, okay, how do we get you to that number? So then it's like, what does it take to get there? And so if she said 1,000 listens, I'm like, okay, how would you get to 1,000? And so then once you have that direction, the burnout is not as likely to happen because you're being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Because so many people burn out because they're like, no one is listening. And then they go for advice and people go, yeah, people are listening. You're doing so good. And they're like, I don't feel like I'm doing a good job though. So then they just keep going on the hamster wheel without feeling like they're getting anywhere. But if they set that number, they're
Oh yeah,
making progress.
but that cliche with about 10, having speaking to 10 people in a room, to me it's like it makes sense. Like if I spoke to 10 people in a room, that'd be I'd be amazed that I was able to speak to these 10 people and impact their lives. So, but I'm blessed. I started off with when I reached my first 500. Well, like it took me a long time to even get to 500 downloads, right?
Yeah.
Overall, and it was I was loving it. I was like amazing. Um,
Yeah.
then the next year, I jumped to almost 10,000 downloads total of
Mm,
everything, and I was like, "What? 10,000? Amazing!"
that's
Like,
amazing.
yeah, and so and then every year it's been growing. Like, I'll go to almost this year, but we're almost to the total of 40,000 downloads. I've been doing it for 4 years,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
so in the first year, I had probably 1,000. So
Yeah.
now I'm to year 4 with almost 40,000 downloads. That's just audio. That's not including what people want the video when I transition to video now as well. So
Mhm.
it's like the number is even higher than that. So to me, it's like if you celebrate the small numbers, then you're preparing yourself for the bigger numbers. I look at it that way. As
Mhm.
like, if you can celebrate the small numbers, then yeah.
Yeah. And really what you're doing there is you're finding meaning along the way. And so a lot of folks lose sight of that. And that's what kind of gets them to stop very quickly is because they don't know what they're aiming for and what the milestones along the way are.
So how do you measure success of a podcast beyond download numbers?
Mm. So, because my primary client is a business owner, we look at the impact it's having on the business. So, are more people going and inquiring about your services? Are more people interested in going to your event? Are more people buying your product? And that is our kind of ultimate metric because that is the return on investment they're looking for. Other things similar to what you were sharing is are people saying that your podcast is impacting them? Are they saying this really helped me? Are they saying that they got something out of it? Because if you're not getting those messages, it's often that you're talking about things that only you want to talk about, not that other people would benefit from. And so those are the things along the way that let us know. So we of course we want it to make dollars and cents, but we also want it to make sense to the people who are working with you or who are listening in general.
That's absolutely. So how do someone keep their podcast content fresh and engaging for long-term listeners?
Mm, so I've been playing with this concept recently, which is tell so provide a solution, the same solution to 3 different people in 3 different episodes.
Mhm,
So to give you an example, like let's say that you are um, a a nutritionist, you help people eat a little bit better. Instead of doing one episode about meal planning and trying to stuff all the information in there,
mhm,
do one episode about meal planning for people who travel for work. Then
mhm.
do another episode about meal planning for moms who also work and don't have any time. And then do a third episode that's like meal planning for people who can't eat the same meal twice. Like people who just like, they say, oh, I could just never. Right. So then you're talking about meal planning in all three. But because you're being so specific with who the episode is for, you actually get new examples. You talk about it differently, you explain it differently. And at the end of the day, all three people would benefit from listening to all three episodes, but you grab their attention by making it specific to them and tailored to their situation. And that also, as a podcaster, gives you endless episode ideas because okay, this week I worked with this type of person, this type of person, and this type of person, and then you're able to really make it custom.
Mm, absolutely. But, if someone's hesitant to start a podcast, what would you say to encourage them to take that leap?
Mm. I would encourage them to look at why they're hesitant. So, really asking, similar to what you shared very openly, of like, are you afraid that people are going to get to know you? What does that mean? What does
Mhm.
it mean? What is scary about people getting to know you?
Yeah.
Sometimes people are hesitant because they um, think that they need a co-host, and so they're like, "Oh, I need someone else." They're depending on someone else, and I would just ask, like, "Hey, why is your message not good enough right away?" And then most often, a lot of people are hesitant because they don't think they have the right tools. So maybe they don't know about Podmatch yet. Maybe they don't know about StreamYard and how StreamYard can help you make this easier. Maybe they don't know about microphones that are really accessible. And
Mhm.
so if they get the right information, then they move on to why am I hesitant because of a belief or a fear? But it's just looking at what is holding you back. And so I encourage you to reach out to someone and say like, hey, can you help me work through this? I really want to start this, but something's in my way.
And it's even like I said earlier, what was it, last week when I took the course, there was a young lady in there, and me and the person who was running the course, like I said, I was a guest on her show. We both podcasters and everything, and someone else that was there in the course was like, I want to start a podcast, but I don't know what to talk about. And then later on, I come to find out she suffers from anxiety and all this other stuff, and her battles is. And I go, you know how you said you wanted to start a podcast and you didn't know what to talk about? There you go.
Hmm.
Talk about your anxiety. Talk about what your struggles and which, because that's something you're going through. That's something you know about. You struggle. And she was like, "Oh my God, you're right." So it's those moments where you're like, "Oh yeah, like yeah, I can talk about that. It is something that and people out there, a lot of people struggle through
Hmm.
anxiety and the fear and all this." I said that's something that's very important. And you'll be impacting people's lives. You'll be able to help people with that by sharing your story.
Yeah. And she took the brave step of vocalizing it, like going to someone else and saying, "Hey, I want this, but I don't know why I can't have it."
Yeah.
And that's why you were able to help her is because she was vulnerable and brave enough to be like, "I need help."
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, she's like, I don't know. I want to, but I don't know what to start. And then, like I said, later on, talking to her and throughout the course, she expressed what she was struggling through, and I'm like, there you go.
Yeah,
There's
that's
answer.
awesome.
Like things happen for a reason. Like people connect for a reason. Messages are to be delivered at a certain time, and I truly do believe that. So that's
I
why
do too.
being able to do this show, like this conversation was supposed to happen because you were supposed to tell me about doing my solo episodes.
Yeah.
I truly like I, I've been wanting to been think that debating it, but speaking to you and hearing your reason why, it was like, okay, this I guess this message was for me today.
Mm,
But I'm sure somebody else might have to hear this message as well.
I'm glad. Yeah, and it's really like so much of the personal is universal,
Mhm.
and the more we can open ourselves up to that, the more the right messages will come in.
Um, eh, the, taking that course, I wrote a letter to the universe and expressed that. I also wrote a prayer that I say now every morning. And it's just been like I said, the last few days has been amazing. Things have been popping up. I've been blessed with opportunities. And it's like, okay, 2025 is starting off pretty good with the way things are falling into place, like with the intentions and everything, and being able to put out, just being able to put it out there,
Mm.
and have results. Like, I wouldn't say instantaneously, but they've been happening quicker than I expected.
But it's also all the work that you've put in. You've been doing this for so long.
Yeah,
And you've been growing, you've been learning, and you've been developing yourself for so long. So even though it feels like it's out of thin air, it's actually just all adding up.
it's yeah, because it's a shift in confidence in myself. It's like I said, putting it out there, and putting myself out there more. Like, something for 2025 that I know I have to really do is I have to be a guest more on other podcasts. I've been a guest on shows, not enough.
Mm,
Not enough where I've put myself out there and been able to share my story. And being a guest is the start of it. Putting myself out there is something that I intend on doing. It. I've already lined up some shows that I'm gonna be a part of. And the goal is to appear in more podcasting this year than I have probably in the last 3 or 4 years combined.
I love it. And we're going to use Podmatch to do it.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
I'm gonna switch it up. Yeah. And
Another strategy that I heard um that might serve you in this process is take the guests that you've had
mhm.
and type their name in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify
I see where they've
and
been
see
at.
all the shows that they've been guests on, and then you
Oh,
pitch them and you say, "Hey, you had so and so on. He or she was on my show, so I know that we're aligned. Would you like me to join you? I can talk about X, Y, and Z." I learned that like literally this morning. I was like, "That's incredible."
that is. I like that.
Right.
I like that. I like that. Even with because Popeyes does something similar where it shows what shows that you've been on previously,
Mhm.
and so yeah. Oh man, thank you.
Right. I
You
had
just
to share. I learned I
you just sharing some nuggets today.
That's
Oh
what I
man,
do.
I love
I love
that.
it. No,
That's
it
awesome.
was somebody walked me through it this morning, and I was like, "This changes the game." Because so with Podmatch is incredible. For folks who don't know, it kinda works like a dating app
Yeah, it is.
for matching. But the thing is sometimes you get those 3 matches in the day and you want more. And
Mhm.
so you can take it upon yourself to reach out. And then most people's Apple, podcast is connected to
Links,
their
yeah,
email.
yeah.
Yeah. So then you can connect that way. I literally I
Oh,
was excited.
that's something I will be doing. I will be doing today. Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Awesome, awesome. But we've come to the point. The time has flown by.
Yes.
Uh, because lately, honestly, I've been keeping it short because I've been keeping it for like 35, 45 minutes, and we're going towards an hour. But I love it. I love it because
Yes.
when you're having some great conversation and it's so much fun, and time just flies. You don't even realize it. It's like
Absolutely.
it's those are the best shows for me. I love these shows where things they just flow
Just
so
go.
good. Yeah.
And I will say, as much as I love talking about myself, what I'll highlight is that you got to share a lot about yourself this episode.
Well, because of you though. That's the guest. That's the host in you bringing that out.
Thank
Like,
you. Yeah, but you gotta give yourself room to shine. That's the message.
yes, you do. You do. You absolutely do. Yeah, I have to. And like I said, that's why this year I plan on being on more podcasts than I've ever been before, because I need to put myself out there, and I've been that should have been something when you asked what was something yeah, that is something that is going to be worked on, and definitely gonna make things so much more fun because I get to talk more and not have so much work.
Absolutely. But then it grows the show. So you
Yes,
just
it does.
you keep going forward and you keep bringing a important message and important connections to new people.
Definitely, definitely. But now we've come to this part of the show where you get the solo layout and plug away and let people know where they can find you.
Well, main place would be Instagram at Isa Media Inc., which you can see here on the screen. I also have a podcast. I have two actually. So if you like interview style episodes like this, I have the Thought Leaders podcast with Isabella Sanchez Castañeda, and that is interviews with thought leaders in their respective industries. I did 60 interviews in 60 days last summer, and so those are being dripped out now. And I would just love to connect with you, hear what you took away from this episode, and just feel free to send me a DM again at Isa Media Inc. on Instagram.
Awesome, awesome. I don't know if I'm following you on Instagram. I think I have to do that. I think I need to follow
Yes,
you.
please do.
I'm almost positive I am. Um, but if I'm not, I'll make sure that I am. I'm almost positive I am though.
Yeah, I
If
want to
I'm
hear
not,
what like stuck out in people's minds.
yeah, people. So you hear people reach out to her. If you ain't following her, follow her on Instagram, which I am now.
Nice.
Follow her on Instagram. But thank you so much. This has been a great episode. Don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and
I'll
we'll
be here.
yeah, okay. We'll chat a
Thank
little bit
you.
off there. But thank you so much for being such a great guest.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody. Another episode is in the books. Shout out to everybody who stopped by and left a comment. Greatly appreciate it. Shadow, thank you for for leaving a comment. Cece, how you doing? Thank you for stopping by. Abdul as well. And Mickey Delaney, thank you for definitely stopping by and showing some love. As always, big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J, love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, love you and appreciate everything you do for me and the family. If you haven't subscribed, please do hit the notification bell. If you catch the replay, leave a comment. I greatly appreciate it. Reach out to Isabella. She definitely wants to hear from you guys and what did y'all take from the episode. I would like to know, so leave me a comment as well. I would like to know what y'all took from the episode. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know, your boy Wise does it. Peace out.